Hi everyone, I'm Lady Teddy. I'm going to be reading to you guys from Magium, which is a text-based choose-your-own-adventure story app that is free, and it's on both Android and iOS. And it's really good, and I am spacey right now, so lost my train of thought. It's really good. There's a lot of different playthroughs that you can do, so I highly recommend you download it for yourself. If you guys don't want to play it for yourself but would like to know what's going on, all of my previous readings are on YouTube in a Magium playlist that you guys can go and watch at your own, when you want to. I know that a lot of people like to just fall asleep and relax and not participate, and that's totally okay. We are doing a good, smart playthrough, so if it's a good or smart decision, I will generally make the decision for us. But if people are wanting to participate, what I will do is I read out loud what the decisions are and what the options are, and I will give y'all about a minute. If people do participate, I will go with whatever the majority of you guys say. If no one says anything, then I will make the decision for us. And since we are in the middle of the story, if anyone has any questions, what's going on, who characters are, feel free to ask. And I should have all sound alerts turned off, so I would not recommend redeeming any of them. Yeah. What's going on right now? There it is. Is we are in the middle of the God of Time showed up, and he's a douchebag, and he's thrown everyone into this ritual so he can gain energy from negative feelings and emotions. He just managed to get out of his ritual, and the majority of his teammates still are in their ritual, so yeah, that's what's going on. He had to relive the death of his parents and the mistakes he made during said death. Yeah. This was the one and only time I had ever frozen up from fear. In fact, if I come to think of it, what happened after this incident was that I developed an almost suicidal tendency to completely ignore danger, no matter how dire the situation was. Alora Forever, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome in. How are you doing? No matter how dire the situation was, it was almost as if my desire for something like this to never happen again was so strong that it fried my brain, and it eliminated my instinct of self-preservation. So many things are starting to make sense now. I can't believe that I've been keeping this memory repressed for so long. I suppose I have the God of Time to thank for this stunning revelation. I would shake his hand, but with the amount of rage that I'm feeling towards him right now, I'm afraid that I might crush it by mistake. The Banshee is now starting to chase after my brother. I waste no time and I dash towards her, impaling her through her back with my pitchfork, without giving her any chance to retaliate. As the Banshee slowly dies before my eyes, a white light once again fills the area, and I get transported through time once more. This time, however, I am not worried. I already know that I have already passed this stage of the ritual. Just as I was expecting, as soon as the light fades, I find myself back in my 28-year-old body, surrounded by all my friends, as Araka lets out one of her usual laughs. It looks like you are one of the first to pass this part of the ritual, Berry Boy, Araka says. Come on, let's have a seat and enjoy ourselves while we watch the rest of your friends suffering in their own trials. I take a quick glance around me to see what our current situation is. The God of Time is no longer anywhere to be seen, but it doesn't seem like his departure affected the ritual in any way. Darren, Kate, Layla, Hadrick, and the Revenant appear to be in some form of trance, similar to the one in which the Revenant was in when she first arrived to this place. E. Hello, Sleepy Dumpling. Welcome in. Their eyes are bright yellow, and they're just staring in front of themselves without being aware of our presence. All of them are standing in place right where I left them, except the Revenant, who now has her feet on the ground instead of floating in midair like before. In the meantime, Melindra, Luna, and presumably Flower are all out of their trances and are looking at me attentively. What do you mean you want us to watch my friends during their trials? I ask Araka, once I get a good grasp of our situation. You have a way to see what's happening in the past? Sure, Araka says. It's not that hard. They're all connected to the Magium right now, so if you know how to link yourself up to their auras properly, you should be able to see what they are seeing. The Magium, I say, as I suddenly remember the discussion that Araka had with the God of Time before she sent us back in time. Bird Steel Panda, thank you so much for the raid. Hang on, let me pause the recording so I can greet you guys. Alright, so this is Magium. We're in the middle of Book 2, Chapter 11. And the way it works is throughout the story you'll be able to get decisions, and there's also a stat device that you can use. So there's there's skill checks like D&D, where if I want to lift something up and my strength is not maxed out, I won't be able to do it. Or sometimes you'll be walking through the forest and you'll pass by enemies and you'll be able to hear conversations and gather information that way. Or ancient languages, there's like random conversations you can have with monsters and stuff like that. You usually don't stay long in raids, but you get the feeling my streams videos are going to be great for your anxiety. I hope so. Yeah, I totally understand. Also, Bird Steel Panda, what should I call you? Is Bird fine? If you need to go de-stream, do what you need to do. I will do my very best to take care of your community, and I'm honored that you chose to share them with me. You cannot adopt a goblin, but we have saved a few goblins' lives, which means that they'll probably come back later and we could be friends with them. Right now we are doing a good, smart playthrough, so good and smart decisions I will enforce, but if it's just conversational or directional, things like that, I will allow you guys to participate if you so choose. Ready to make all the bad decisions. Not available for this playthrough will walk, but you can download it and play it for yourself. I have yet to do an Evil Berry playthrough, and I'm kind of looking forward to it once I've got y'all caught up. The author just finished book 3 of 5. So, the story is still coming out, and it's really good. 7 out of 4 hearing. So the reason that is a thing is because of a decision that was made earlier in the story. I was able to get a code that temporarily increases your hearing stat for a few seconds, and then because I knew that, there's another character that has power over time who called me and was like, yo, do your hearing stat code, and then we chose to do that. And then she froze time, so now for the rest of however long this is, it's I'm going to have 7 out of 4 hearing. So far it hasn't been useful, but it's cool to know that it's there. Good even, you can call Cauldron King Duncan. Some people call him Duncan. If it's not in the username, I probably will not remember. I'm just throwing that out there. but thank you for letting me know. Oh, it's cold iron. Okay, iron. I'll try and remember that. You can remind me if I forget. You're just fussing, alright. Hey Chet, don't forget about... Oh yeah, I cannot do fake laughter to save my life. I think I've improved a little bit, but there is a character that has a really trippy voice that I physically am not able to do, and we've realized that I can accommodate for the bad fake laughter by doing this. Wah ha 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 ha. And you guys seem happy with that. Okay, so what's going on right now for the people who don't know what's going on? They were just ambushed by the god of time, who's a douchebag, and he's thrown them into this ritual where they have to relive terrible things throughout their life. And you gather, but they didn't know this going into it, that he gathers negative energy, and that's like where his power comes from. An improvement to fake laughter? Thank you. So Barry, the main character, just finished his trial, which was terrible. He had to relive the death of his parents and all of those mistakes. He's, like, killed them many times, painfully, and then rewinded time, so they had to relive it. He's a douchebag. So he just got out of his ritual, and now he's interacting with the other members of the party who are also out of the ritual. The Magium, I say, as I suddenly remember the discussion that Araka had with the God of Time before he sent us back in time. You were saying before that the Magium is the one that sent the Revenant here to give us the prophecy. What did you mean by that? Are you saying that the Magium is a person? Araka laughs. Aluna, did you hear? He asked me if the Magium is a person. I heard him, Aluna says in a dry tone. As Araka continues to laugh in the background. Of course you wouldn't answer my question, I say, as I look towards Araka's amulet. Never mind the Magium then. What can you tell me about the others' rituals? Which ones are you talking about? Araka says. The ones that have already passed, or the ones that are still inside the trance? Both, I guess? The ones that are still inside their rituals, obviously. I am inclined to go with this one, but I feel like good Smart Berry would do either. Information gathering, I feel like, would do both. So these are your decisions. I will go with whatever the majority of the chat says. If no one says anything, I will make a decision. Y'all have about a minute. Lordos, yes, we are doing Magium early. I managed to beat Quap, so why not? This way I won't be reading until 4 a.m. Hopefully. Fuzzy, where was the time? God. Don't you usually do Magium before logging off? It's normally how I end my streams, or it's if I'm reading Magium, it's generally at the end of my stream, but the last couple times I've done Magium, I've read for like 2.5 hours. So I see Willwalk says the second choice. Carrot King, are you voting for the second choice? Raynar is voting for the first choice. Okay, the majority is voting for the second choice then. The ones that are still inside their rituals, obviously. Araka says. I think that it would be quicker to show you directly. Let's start with the healer. In a single instant, the scenery around me changes completely, and everyone except for Flower and me disappear from before my eyes, as I now find myself standing in front of Rose's house in the city of Thilius. When I take a better look at the two of us, I notice that Flower and I have both become semi-transparent, and the same goes for Araka's amulet. On the other hand, I'm also seeing another flower and another instance of me who are not transparent at all, and who are currently busy talking to Rose and her siblings in the same yard where we are located. Hadrick, Kate, and Darren are also here apparently, and so is Ella. First, let me give you a bit of context, Araka says. What's happening? I say. How did you bring us here? Shh, Araka tells me. Rose, I hear Darren saying, could you show me to my room? All I want right now is to lie down in a bed for a while. Certainly, Rose says. Follow me. I'll show you the way. Okay, now the healer is heading towards his room, and he's going to stay there for a while, Araka says. Remember this part? Yes, I say. This happened right after we reached Rose's house for the first time. But why are you showing me this? Does this have anything to do with Darren's ritual? I told you, Araka says. I'm trying to give you some context. It wouldn't be any fun otherwise. Alright, next up, we'll fast forward to Darren's room. Once again, the whole scenery around us changes in an instant, and we both find ourselves inside Darren's room from Rose's mansion, where Darren is currently sitting on the bed with his torso leaning forward, and his elbows propped on his knees while he is holding his head with both of his hands. Just like before, he seems to be completely unaware of our presence. Lordos, no. As far as I know, there will not be another one of those erotic scenes for the rest of the novel. But then again, I've never done the Melindra one. There are love interests in this game. He can't see or hear us, by the way. Araka tells me, just as we are still in our semi-transparent form. Just thought I'd make it clear, in case you didn't figure it out by now. She could have died. I hear Darren's voice reverberating through the walls, even though Darren's mouth is still closed. She could have died right before my eyes, and I would have been powerless to save her. What was that? I ask Araka as I look all around us and try to find the source of the sound. Were those Darren's thoughts? Of course they were his thoughts, Araka says. What else could they have been? You have the ability to read people's minds? I say, starting to panic a little. No, you idiot, Araka says. How many times do I need to tell you that your friends are connected to the Magium right now? Reading their thoughts while they are in this state is easy if you have some decent knowledge of how auras work. Now shut up and pay attention. I didn't bring you here for nothing. Oh my gosh. Wanji, thank you so much for the... Okay, I'll pause again. Unpaused. There we go. No, you idiot, Araka says. How many times do I need to tell you that your friends are connected to the Magium right now? Reading their thoughts while they're in this state is easy if you have some decent knowledge of how auras work. Now shut up and pay attention. I didn't bring you here for nothing. No, I hear Darren's voice echoing throughout the room again. It's not that I was powerless. I could have gotten the power if I wanted it. But would I have gotten it? Would I have been able to do something as humiliating as ask Eden for help for the sake of saving that poor girl's life? What would have happened if Barry hadn't intervened? Would that girl have been dead because of me? Because I couldn't let go of my ego. No, Eden is evil. He couldn't have just offered to help me without having an ulterior motive. But then, why didn't he ask for anything in return? I saw him give Barry the power, and there were no tricks. He even gave the rest of us the power as a side effect of his spell. Then, why did he do it? What could have been his reason? Did he really give me that option just to humiliate me? What is Eden thinking? Perfect, Araka says. I think this should be enough context for our intents and purposes. Let's move on to the ritual. Again, the environment around us changes completely, but this time we find ourselves on the streets of Thilius, right as the noble was threatening Ella. Flower and I are still semi-transparent, but the non-transparent version of me is standing about a dozen feet away from our current position, and so are Darren, Kate, Rose, and Eden. Welcome back, Melody. How was your meeting? Okay, Araka says, this is where Darren's ritual actually started. What I've been showing you so far were just fragments of his memories, so you could better understand his motivations. Is everything clear so far? Ember, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. How are you? I guess so, I say. Good. Araka says, now let's watch the show. What happened? I hear Darren's thoughts echoing throughout the area as he looks around him confused. Is this the ritual that Araka was talking about? Did I get sent to the past? How interesting, Eden says all of a sudden. The flow of the healer's aura has changed completely in a matter of seconds. It's as if he's now a different person from the one he was a few moments ago. What could trigger such a change, I wonder? Memory loss? No. This is something else. Time travel, perhaps. A trial from the god of time. I don't know what you're talking about, Darren says, trying to feign ignorance. Who is this god of time you speak of? I've never heard of him. So you did receive the trial then, Eden says, with a grin as he sees right through Darren's bluff. But what could be the purpose of the ritual? Is it to save the slave girl? Either way, I must make sure not to interfere. I would not want you to fail your trial on my account. What do you mean you won't interfere? Darren says with an anxious tone in his voice. You're still going to give Barry the power to attack the noble, right? Is that what I did the last time you experienced these events? Eden asks with a wicked smile. Why was it Barry that saved the slave girl instead of you? Is it because you refused my offer? Yes, that would make sense, wouldn't it? But this time you won't be able to rely on your friend to clean up your mess anymore. So, what are you going to do? Basically plan stuff. Well, I'm glad it was productive. This bastard, I hear Darren thinking. I should have known he couldn't be trusted. But if Barry isn't going to save Ella anymore, then that means... We suddenly hear Ella screaming in fear as the Earl of Allendor is now holding his knife in his hand while approaching her slowly. Please, I beg you, Ella says as she is desperately trying to lift all of the luggage that she was supposed to carry in her hands. Give me one more chance. I can still carry these bags for you. I don't want to die. Well, then you should have thought of that before wasting my time, wench, the noble says. Now stand still. I will make your death as swift as possible. Without thinking, Darren rushes to Ella's aid, and he tries to pull her away from the Earl. Come, Ella, Darren says, while he tries to pull her by the arm. I'm taking you away from this monster. No, Ella shouts as she panics and jumps back from Darren. I can't run away from him. I'm his property. She then turns back to face the Earl of Allendor. Sir, please, I promise that. Ella does not get to finish her sentence because the noble immediately slits her throat wide open with a single slash of his dagger. No, Darren shouts in desperation as he immediately grabs Ella in his arms and he attempts to cast a healing spell on her. Unfortunately, by the time his spell began to take effect, Ella had lost way too much blood, and she slowly died in his arms while he was still trying to heal her. The noble says, as he looks at Darren in disgust. How pathetic. No, this wasn't supposed to happen, Darren shouts, completely ignoring the Earl as he is still trying to heal the dead Ella he is holding in his arms. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. She was supposed to keep living happily at Rose's house. She deserved to be happy. Please, if anyone's listening, please give me another chance. I promise I won't fail her again. Next time, please. He then starts to sob quietly as he continues to hold Ella's corpse tightly in his arms. Another few seconds of silence, except for Darren's slow sobs. A bright white light suddenly envelops the area, and then, a few moments later, we find ourselves in the same area again, but with Ella still alive, and with Darren back where he was when he was first sent back in time. Mr. Kennedy, hello, welcome in. You almost couldn't find me, Phoenix. Seriously? Just a lot of people live right now? Well, I'm glad you were able to find me. And for the people who don't know what's about to happen, I can't do fake laughter, but we found a substitute. Araka laughs. Did you see that? Did you see how well timed that was? Even if it were all staged, it couldn't have turned out as good as this. Hydrate, thank you. Mr. Kennedy, I have all sound alerts turned off while I do the reading. Yes. But thank you for trying. So the options are just what is it exactly that you are finding so funny? Is this seriously what passes off as entertainment to you? You're really starting to get on my nerves, you know that. I don't really think smart, good Barry would have a preference to any of these, so if there's anyone that would like to participate, now is your chance. I will go with whatever the majority of you guys choose. And I'm gonna give y'all about a minute. Oh, you love the Minnie Mouse thing? Thank you. I was really happy with that cosplay, Phoenix. I'll chalk it up to you're still having me think of it. That is true, I did think of it. It looks like it's unanimously the middle choice. And don't worry, you'll get lots of sass with Barry. It's one of my favorite things about him. If there's someone that he can give sass to, he does it. Is this seriously what passes off as entertainment to you? Entertainment, Eureka says. This isn't just entertainment for me, Barry boy. This is what I live for. Wow, you really went off the deep end a long time ago, didn't you? I tell Uraka. Well, it's either that, or I am in fact the only sane person in the world, and you all are a bunch of nut jobs, Uraka says. The world may never know. While Uraka and I were talking, Eden was just discovering for a second time that Darren had been sent to the past by the god of time, and he was now getting ready to mock him once again. I must make sure not to interfere, we hear Eden say. I would not want you to fail your trial on my account. No, you don't understand, Darren says, with obvious desperation in his eyes. I need you to interfere. I can't fail her again. I need the power that only you can give. The power to attack the noble. Oh, Eden asks, surprised. I honestly wouldn't have expected you to ask me for help so directly. But even so, there's no use in undergoing a trial if you're not going to solve your problems by yourself. I'm afraid that I'll have to decline your request, regardless of what I may have done in your original timeline. Damn you, Darren says. Do you want me to beg? Is that what you want? No, actually I was, Eden starts to say, but he interrupts himself when he sees Darren drop to his hands and knees in front of him, with his head bowed down. Then I will beg, Darren says. I will beg on my hands and knees, even though I hate you with all of my heart, even though I considered you to be one of the most evil and irredeemable people I have ever met. But right now, you are my only hope to save this girl from her terrible fate. And the only thing I can do is to beg. And the only thing I can do is to beg you for your help. So please, I am begging you. Give me the power to save this girl, and I will do anything you ask, no matter how humiliating it may be. While Darren was talking, I could see Eden slowly opening his eyes for a few seconds, with an expression of both shock and amazement on his face. Then, when Darren finished his speech, Eden smiled slightly, with his eyes closed. You will do anything I ask, you say, Eden says. Then, I only have one request. He then pauses for a second as he gets a much more serious expression on his face. Prove me wrong, Eden continues. The Stillwater then raises his hand and a powerful wind starts spinning around him for a few seconds. Prove you wrong? Darren asks, confused, as Eden lowers his arms and the wind around him stops. What do you mean by... You have the power, healer, Eden says. Now go, before it is too late. Right, Darren says as he gets up from the ground and rushes towards the noble. How many chances are you going to ask me for, foolish girl? I hear the Earl of Allendor say with his knife in his hand, while Darren and Eden were still having their conversation. Do you not realize that my mercy isn't without limits? I've had enough of your excuses. This time I will kill you for good. Don't you dare move from that spot. I won't let you kill her, you bastard, Darren shouts as he rushes towards the noble with his sword at the ready. What the hell? The Earl says, just as he was about to slit Ella's throat, and he turns to look towards Darren. The noble barely has the time to turn around because Darren's blade beheads him in an instant, and the Earl of Allendor's headless corpse soon falls to the ground next to its severed head. I did it, I can hear Darren thinking. I saved her. This time I didn't hesitate. I finally managed to make things right. All of a sudden, the now all too familiar white light fills the area around us in order to once again send Darren back to the beginning of the ritual. No! Darren shouts as the light envelops him, but nobody is listening to him, and after a few seconds he finds himself right back where he started, with the noble still alive and kicking. Araka laughs. The idiot actually thought that he completed the trial. Can you believe that? The irony is that all he needed to do for his trial was to be complete was to just calm the hell down and to shut his mouth. That way, Eden wouldn't have seen any unusual changes in his aura, and he wouldn't have been able to guess that the God of Time sent him back. But at this rate, it's going to take him 1,000,000 years to figure it out. Oh man, that guy is such a good source of comedy. Is his ritual the same as mine, then? I ask her. He just needs to recreate the same events that happened the very first time? Yes, most of your rituals are made the same way, Araka says. As long as the past versions of you is the one that saves the slave, using Eden's power, he should be fine. Well, I'm sure he'll figure it out eventually. Come on, let's go visit some of the other rituals. What happened? I hear Darren's thoughts in the background. What did I do wrong? What does this ritual want from me? And our next destination is the Beacon of Hope, Araka says. Hold on tight. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Nah, I'm just kidding. We're already here. As I look around me, I see that our environment has changed completely. In a matter of seconds, and we are now situated in the middle of a very dark underground corridor, with only a few dimly lit torches to provide us with any light. Almost immediately after we arrive in this place, we can hear the scream of a young boy echoing somewhere in the distance. And then we hear the little girl screaming in pain as well, although she appears to be somewhere closer than the boy. Not long afterwards, we hear the terrified screams of a few other children as well. Some of them are begging for mercy, some of them are trying to suppress their screams, and others are calling in vain for their parents to save them. I've heard the stories of this place from both Kate and Layla, but I never would have imagined it to be as bad as this. Just standing here listening to all of these screams is giving me goosebumps all over my body. I can't even begin to imagine what it would be like to experience what those children are going through right now. Wow, these Lasathis sure weren't messing around, huh? Araka says. It's like a whole symphony of horrified screams down here. Anyway, this isn't exactly where I wanted to bring you. I'm just gonna need to take a quick look around and see what your friend Kate has been doing since the beginning of this ritual, so I can spare you the boring details and get right to the good stuff. I'm sure I'll just leave you to enjoy these melodious sounds of pure agony while I do my thing, okay? Melodious sounds of these are children that are screaming here. I shout at her. What the hell is wrong with you? To be perfectly honest, I couldn't care less about the screaming children, Araka says. It's the psychological kind of torture that I usually tend to find amusing, not the physical one. That's why the real entertaining part for me is to see your reactions to all of this. Why else did you think I went through the trouble of bringing you with me to these rituals, if not for my own entertainment? I thought you were just bored and decided to bring me along on a whim. I still don't understand how you can find entertainment in such things. I feel like Smartberry would go with this one because it's less of giving her what she wants, but Smart Goodberry would do either. So if there's anyone who would like to weigh in here, now is your chance. Otherwise, I will be making a decision for us in about a minute. Birdsteel Panda, thank you again so much for the raid. Welcome in. I appreciate you trusting me with your community. And you're welcome for the good vibes. Thank you for bringing your own as well. Sweet dreams. I hope you get some rest. Alright, top choice then. I thought you were just bored and decided to bring me along on a whim. Nah, Araka says. That's Eden's shtick, not mine. I know it may not seem like it most of the time, but I rarely do things without a reason. For example, I specifically chose this moment in time as our initial destination because I knew they were going to be doing experiments at this hour, and there would be a lot of screaming going on. It just would have felt like a waste if I kept you waiting in a silent, empty hallway. You know. Ugh, I say. Just shut up and get us out of here already. Easier said than done, Araka says. I may be a genius when it comes to magic, but you still can't expect me to comb through all of these events that have just been happening here in a matter of seconds. It's not like I get to connect myself to the Magium like this on a daily basis. You keep casually talking to me about the Magium, but you haven't even told me what it is yet, I say. That's the joke, berry boy, Araka says. I keep doing it because I know it frustrates you. It's a good way to keep myself from dying of boredom while I go through the tedious process of scanning these memories. Can you at least tell me how you were able to switch between past and future with so much ease? I ask her, and how it is that you can also access people's memories and transport us into them as if they were part of our reality. When you're linked directly to the Magium in the way we are now, Uraka says, terms like past, future, memories, and reality become irrelevant. In here, everything is both real and imaginary at the same time. Allow me to demonstrate. A giant red serpent with 2 wings and 4 small claws suddenly appears in front of me, and it immediately flies towards me with a menacing look in its eyes, while its whole body is surrounded by flames. I panic a little, and I jump back, trying to pull my dagger out, but the monster scratches my right leg with one of its claws, and then it disappears just as quickly as it made its appearance. Araka, what did you do? Flower asks, shocked, as Aluna approaches me in order to heal me. Relax, Araka says. Neither of us can die in here. That scratch right now didn't hurt, did it? Now that you mention it, I suppose it didn't, I say, as Aluna suddenly stops healing my wound, realizing that I was never in any real danger. That's because these aren't our real bodies, Araka says. They're just our projections. Our real bodies are still right where we left them, stuck in one of those weird trances with the glowy eyes. What I was trying to show you is that I can do whatever I want while we're in here. It's like my own playground. Obviously, I can't interfere with what your friends are doing, since we don't really exist in their worlds, but as far as spectating goes, my options are unlimited. Thank you for the hydrate. So, you're saying that my friends can't die either, I say. We're just in an imaginary world right now? No, this only applies to us because we are projections. Like I said, Araka tells me, the worlds that your friends have been transported into are very much real. It's just that they're not our world. They are parallel worlds similar to ours in which the future never actually happened. Obviously, none of the changes that they make in those worlds will affect our world in the slightest, but they have no way of knowing that. Didn't you find it strange that you managed to pass your own ritual, even if it should normally be impossible for you to perfectly reproduce the exact actions you took 15 years ago, down to the last detail? That's because it wasn't the laws of time preventing you from doing what you wanted. It was just Selkram, messing with your head. The god of time, I say, suddenly filled with uncontrollable hatred just by uttering his name. Is he watching us right now? No, Araka says. He can't just stay materialized in our world for as long as he wants. That would waste too much energy. That's why he usually only comes in at the very beginning and at the end, unless it is absolutely necessary for him to personally intervene in the middle of a ritual. Otherwise, he'll most likely just stay in the magical plane and wait patiently for the rituals to gather energy for him. But how do these rituals help him? I say. What is it about these trials that give him so much power? He's gathering the energy from your negative emotions, Araka says. Hatred, anger, fear, despair, that kind of stuff. Those are the types of emotions that can be exploited in the most efficient way through these methods. But he can't really do any of that without linking himself directly to the Magium during the Time Weaver prophecies, so he needs to squeeze as much as he can out of you guys while he still has the chance. That's why these trials are designed the way they are, to make sure that they trigger as many strong, negative emotions out of you as they can. I'm not sure if I like where this is going. I say, just what kind of messed up trial is this guy trying to put Kate through if he needed to send her all the way back to her years at the beacon? We'll both see in a few seconds, Araka says. I never actually looked into this ritual before I came with you, so we'll both be experiencing this for the first time together. I'm sure it will be fun. Let us begin. We both disappear from the corridor with all of the screaming, and we reappear in a dark, empty room where the 11-year-old version of Kate seems to be talking with what I'm assuming is a 12-year-old version of her friend Diane. Kate is easy to recognize because she just looks like a smaller version of her usual self. But Diane has long blonde hair and a much more frail physique than she had in her adult form. So it's a bit more difficult for me to tell if it's really her or not. They are both dressed in rags. The room we are in resembles my old holding cell from the arena, with one bed and a small window on top, so I'm guessing that they are most likely in Diane's room, and Kate decided to pay her a visit in order to tell her something that she knows from the future. I didn't manage to make her thoughts audible, so we're going to have to work with what we have. Araka tells me, let's see where this goes. I'm telling you, it's not the test of loyalty, Kate tells Diane while whispering in order to make sure that the guards outside don't hear them. I know that this is hard to believe, but I've come from the future, and I know that the Lisathi caretaker who is trying to help us escape will become Layla's adoptive father later on. I know that he can be trusted. Layla, Diane whispers back. You mean the Lisathi girl that was thrown in here with us 2 years ago? Listen, even if that caretaker is really trying to help us escape, you are still forgetting one thing. Diane then points towards her neck, which has a collar around it similar to the ones that the Golden Fox used against us. As long as Jason and I are wearing these collars, we won't be able to get out of here, Diane says. If we get too far away from this place, the collars will electrocute us, and that will be the end of our escape. But you don't have a collar. You're one of the rejects. If you really trust this man, then you could... No, Kate says, as she almost shouts by mistake. You always do that. You always put your friends' needs above your own. I'm not going to let you do that now. We can all escape together. You, me, Layla, your brother. I'm not sure how much Jason would agree to this plan, Diane says. You know how he is. He never trusts anyone. Especially if they're Lisathi. He was like this before we even knew about the test of loyalty. He barely even exchanges any words with the high-ranked Lisathi that we are sent to escort on a regular basis. The only one he seems to get along with is that woman, Meredith, their second in command. I don't know what he sees in her. He always tells me how she's different from the other high-ranked Lasathi, but for me, they're all the same. They all know what's happening here. They're not blind. They're to blame. Diane, listen to me, Kate says. That caretaker is very skilled at tinkering with magical devices. I'm sure that he could find a way to free you of your collars. I will talk to him about this I will talk to him about this at the first opportunity, but you need to find a way to convince your brother to come with us. Can you do that? You're asking a lot of me, Kate, Diane says. If I tell Jason your story about how you came from the future, he'll think that I'm insane. I'm not even sure how much I believe what you're saying. I mean, are you sure that they couldn't have been a hallucination of some sort? They've been feeding us really poorly lately and... No, Kate says. It's real. In a year from now, they're going to shut down the beacon due to lack of funds, and then they're going to throw all of us rejects in the jungle to fend for ourselves. I wasn't able to save even one of them. I can't let that happen again. I need to find a way to convince everyone. Just promise me that you'll try and talk to your brother. You don't need to tell him that I'm from the future. Just try to find a way to get through to him. Somehow. I'll try, Diane says hesitantly. Thank you, Kate says. I will come talk to you again after speaking with the caretaker about the collars. I'm sure we'll be able to work something out. See you soon. All right, Areka says, as Kate walks out of the room. I took a quick look through the following events, and I think it should be safe to skip the next part. I'll just go ahead and... Wait, I say. What's the next part about? Oh, Areka says. It's just some uninteresting stuff about her talking with the caretaker and him confirming that it's possible to take off the collars. It's a waste of time. But I want to see it. I suppose it's better to skip it then. Could you show me Diane's discussion with her brother instead then? I feel like this is the smart berry option. I feel like this is what smart berry would do. So I'm gonna give y'all a minute to convince me, or agree with me, or convince me why otherwise. Feel free to argue. I'm feeling very warm right now. I'm gonna go get some ice for my water and possibly an ice pack because I'm feeling like really warm. It's probably the sunburn mixed with the heat, but something needs to be done. Yeah, so I will be right back. I won't go to the BRB screen because I don't want the clips to play. So you guys can admire my background. I'm back. You love it and it's amazing background? Thank you very much. I now have ice and I'm using my necklace to strap an ice pack to my neck. I feel much better already. Probably one of the best backgrounds ever created. No other background could be anywhere close to... Thank you very much. I did spend debatably too much time just setting up this board, so thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So Willwalk agreed with the bottom one then. Could you... Did it look like something changed? Could you show me Diane's discussion with her brother instead then? I suppose, Uraka says. I'm not exactly sure how relevant it's going to be, but at least it shouldn't be a complete waste of our time. Instead of the scenery changing, this time we remain in the same room, but Diane is no longer standing where she was before, and it seems that she has a new visitor. This person who is currently talking with Diane is a boy in his late teens with short blonde hair, which I assume is her brother Jason. His overall physique is not very impressive, but the look in his eyes is much more mature than one would expect from a boy his age. He looks like the sort of guy who is very confident in his abilities and who knows exactly what he wants. Just like his sister, he is also wearing a collar around his neck, and he is dressed in rags. Diane, Jason says, I've told you many times before that you should take everything that Kate tells you with a grain of salt. I know she is your best friend, but that girl is way too trusting for her own good. When you put so much trust into people, it hurts that much more when you inevitably get betrayed. Mark my words, one day she will get betrayed so badly that she will never want to trust anyone ever again. And when that happens, you won't be able to tell me that I didn't warn you. So you're saying what? That she should be more like you? Diane says. Ever since I've known you, you've never trusted anyone other than yourself. How is that any better? Hey, don't say things like that, Jason says. You know I've always trusted you. Even if the whole world betrays us, you and I will still continue to stay true to each other until the very end. That's the promise we made right before we were first assigned as elite bodyguards to the Lisathi 3 years ago. You still remember that promise, right? Of course I do, Diane says. But do you still remember it? I've been telling you for years that Meredith is bad news, and that you should keep your distance from her, but you never listen. Why is it that you are so willing to put your trust in her when you've never trusted anyone in your life? I never said I trust her, Jason says. She's just a means to an end. That's all there is to it. And besides, she's not like the other Lisathi. She has the potential to change things for the better. All she needs is a little push in the right direction. There are already many Lisathi who support her. I'd even go as far as saying that there are more who currently support her than the ones who supported the great leader, Hexel. It's not by coincidence that she managed to become second in command. When she first started off, she was only a lowly secretary to Hexel, but she's been climbing her way up the ranks for 20 years, and she's made many friends during that time. I'm telling you, there will be a great change coming soon in the Lisathi world, and I want to be right at the heart of it when it happens. You know I don't like it when you talk like this, Diane says. I thought that our goal was to escape this place. Why would we care about the Lisathi world and how they change for the better? Let them rot, for all I care. I only want to be free of this nightmare so we can live the rest of our lives in peace, together. All three of us. And we will, Jason says. What I'm doing is for the sake of us, sake of all of us, Kate included. You'll understand when you're older. You always say this, Diane says. What about Kate's plan regarding the Lasathi caretaker? Are you at least going to consider it? I'll think about it, Jason says. Anyway, I need to get going. If I stay too much here, the guards will start to think that we're plotting something. Take care. Well, that was, interesting, Araka says. Anyway, let's get back to the stuff that's actually somewhat relevant to this ritual. As soon as Araka stops talking, we get transported into a different room where Kate is currently talking with a girl who has light brown hair, who appears to be around 15 years of age. Just like Kate and Diane, she's dressed in some old, tattered clothes, but her hair is less messy and she seems to be taking much more care of her physical appearance than the other two girls. She also has a pleasant smile and a charismatic way of talking, which makes me think that she's the type who easily gets along with other people. Please, Kate says, you are the only one who can help me. The other orphans never listened to me, but I'm sure they'll listen to you. You've always had a way with words, and everyone trusts your judgment. You're almost like a leader of sorts. You flatter me, Kate, the girl says, but this isn't an easy task you're asking of me. Do you not remember what happened the last time we decided to trust one of the caretakers? The Lasathi chose to kill only one of us back then in order to set an example, but that could have been any one of us. They had no reason to choose Benjamin out of all of us. He didn't stand out in any way. He didn't even say a word. But they simply kept beating him in front of us, and they just wouldn't stop. Even after he was dead, they wouldn't stop. Even if we try to escape again and they catch us, I don't think they will settle for killing only one person anymore. This time, they're going to kill all of us, and they're not going to show us any mercy. They're going to try to kill us anyway, Kate says. We're both rejects. When they'll finally be done experimenting on us, they'll throw us all in a jungle and they'll leave us for dead. We can't stay rejects forever, the girl says, although I can clearly see that she is lying to herself. Maybe one day we'll be like your friend Diane and her brother, and then we'll get to escort important Lasathi around instead of being experimented on over and over. If we haven't died from the experiments for such a long time, then there still has to be a chance. It's not going to happen, Olivia, Kate says. We can just keep waiting for things to get better. We can't just keep waiting for things to get better. We need to take matters into our own hands. Please, trust me on this. Following the caretaker's plan is our only true chance of escaping this hellhole. He's not going to betray us like the one before. We can still make it out of here alive, but I need your help. Olivia starts to calm down after she hears what Kate has to say, and all of a sudden she gets a very determined look in her eyes. I understand you, Kate, Olivia says. You know that I've always been your friend. If you are willing to put so much trust into this man, then I believe in you and your judgment. I will try to convince as many people as I can, but I can't promise you anything. I'll tell you later how things went. Thank you so much, Kate says with a relieved look on her face. I will also talk to Diane and tell her what you said. We'll talk more when you have something new to tell me. See you later. Goodbye, Olivia says as she regains her pleasant smile from before, and then Kate goes to exit her room. Okay, this next part's going to be real good, Araka says. Get ready. The environment around us changes yet again, but this time we find ourselves in a very large underground hallway where about 100 or so orphans are currently all lined up and standing straight, while looking at a few men dressed in dark blue robes in front of them. I'm assuming that the men in blue robes are the Lisathi that run the place. But what's strange is that all of them are standing up except for one, who is currently on his knees with a hood covering his face and his head bowed down. Araka is an evil bitch, but she's one of my favorite characters. But yeah, she's irredeemably evil. The orphans are all dressed in the same type of gray rags, and one of them, the orphans are all dressed in the same type of gray rags, and most of them have very tired looks on their faces, as if this place has sucked the life right out of them. They also appear to be very malnourished, and some of them have bruises all over their bodies. The ages of the orphans seem to be no higher than 19 and no lower than 4, but most of them are aged between 6 and 15 years old. The only orphans who are not lined up with the others are Diane and her brother. They are instead standing near the Lisathi, likely due to their bodyguard status. The Lisathi are currently talking amongst themselves, but the orphans are all dead silent, awaiting impatiently for the meeting to begin. From the looks of things, it seems that the Lisathi are waiting for one or two more of their colleagues to arrive before announcing to everyone the reason why they called them here. Really? I tell Araka as we wait for about 10 more seconds. You couldn't have brought us any closer in time to the beginning of the meeting? How much longer are we supposed to wait here? Stop complaining, Araka says. I brought us here a bit earlier because there's something that I'm trying to test. There is this theory that I've had for a while about the Lisathi and the reason why they're so good at making magical devices, and I want to see if it's true or not. The main gist of it is that I think they have some sort of innate understanding of the Magian's true nature, which gives them the ability to tamper with an object's aura in a more precise fashion than most other tinkers. But it's more than simply knowing what the Magium's nature is. Firan knows its nature too, and he has a way to access it, but that staff of his cannot compare to the magical artifacts that the Lisathi are able to invent. It's almost as if they've developed some sort of natural affinity to the Magium over the years, which is subtle enough that I can't detect it when I study their auras. If that's really the case, then it might also explain why they have no magic in their auras whatsoever. If their auras resonate so strongly with the Magium, then their subconscious must be getting constantly bombarded with information, which would make it impossible for them to maintain any sort of connection to the magical plane. Well, at this moment, you are the one bombarding me with too much information, I say. What do you mean the Lisathi have an aura that resonates strongly with the Magium? Am I not a Lasathi too? Or half Lasathi, whatever? Are you trying to tell me that I already had the Magium with me all along? Because it sure as hell doesn't feel like it to me. Of course not, Araka says. What kind of logic is that? Wasn't the exact wording of the tournament organizers that they would give you access to the Magium if you win? That has nothing to do with simply having an affinity towards it. Leaving aside the fact that you are probably getting far less information from the Magium than a regular Lasathi, due to being half human, most of that information is completely useless to you, because you have no way to process it. On the other hand, if you have a way to access the Magium directly from the earthen plane, then that natural affinity of yours will suddenly become a lot more useful. The Lasathi on this continent already have direct access to the Magium. That's why an affinity to it would be helpful to them. But again, this is all just a theory until I make my test. What kind of test are you talking about? Why would the Lasathi have direct access to the Magium? How do you think the Lasathi might have gotten subconsciously linked to the Magium? I think one of these two, because she's gonna find out this eventually. I'll give y'all about a minute. They're similar. Directly, it's been implied so far that directly accessing the Magium is like a physical source, whereas being subconsciously linked just means that you are one-way receiving information. You're not able to interact with the Magium more than it is interacting with you. But I'm also leaning towards... Still want to do the middle? Okay. Why would the Lasathi have direct access to the Magium? They are allied with the kings of Varathia, remember? Araka says. They even helped with the organization of this tournament. If the kings have access to the Magium, then so do they. Oh, right. I forgot, I said. So, what kind of test are you planning to do, exactly? I'm trying to see if any of the Lasathi over there are able to sense our presence, Araka says. I've been trying to reach them through a myriad of magical frequencies over the past few minutes, but I haven't had any luck just yet. If my theory is correct, then the fact that we are linked to the Magium right now should make it possible for them to detect us, even if we don't technically exist in their own world. Maybe I'm going about this the wrong way, though. Let me try something else. All of a sudden, 3 clowns appear out of nowhere, right between the Lasathi and the row of orphans, and they start to dance in place, imitating the movement of gorillas, with big grins on their faces. There we go, Araka says. This should liven up the place a bit, but I still feel like there's something missing. Hey, Flower, why don't you go dance with those clowns for a bit? You're already dressed for the part, so you may as well. So all you need to do is mimic their movements. I'm not wearing clown clothes, Flower shouts furiously. How many times do I need to explain this to you? These are acrobat clothes. They're the same type of clothes that I used to wear back in Ulmnar when I was performing as a trapeze artist in the circus. Uh-huh, Araka says. Sure they are. Now, be a good girl and go dance with your brethren over there so we can... Do you sense that? Oh my gosh, the perfect emotes. Thank you. Do you sense that? One of the Lasathi asks one of his colleagues. Sense what? Asks the other Lasathi. There was some sort of strange presence coming from right in front of us just now. The first Lasathi says, I felt it, even if it wasn't a part of this world. As if it didn't even exist. Do you understand what I mean? Well, if it doesn't exist, then maybe we shouldn't be worrying about it. Don't you think? The other Lasathi says, here's an idea. How about you stop bothering me with nonsense and wait for the others in silence like everyone else? Aha! Araka says, as she makes the clowns disappear. I knew it. I knew that these bastards were resonating with the Magium somehow. But then again, if the Lasathi have such a good affinity with the Magium, then how is it that Eden and the fox were the ones who first learned how to create food out of nothing, and not them? Wasn't that knowledge somehow taken from the Magium as well? You do realize, I say, that if you're going to keep giving me so much information about the Magium, I will eventually figure out what it is, right? So what? Araka says, do I look like I care? This is all a game to me. I couldn't care less if you find out the true nature of the Magium. I've only been hiding it from you since I find your reactions to be amusing. It's not like I was forbidden to talk about this by the Magium itself, like Flower and Aluna. What did you just say? I ask her, shocked. Araka, don't you say another word, Aluna says, with a mixture of both anger and fear in her eyes. I'm warning you. Warning me? Araka says, warning me? Has our little trip to this parallel universe managed to completely fry your brain? Did you forget? Do you forget who you are talking to? I am Araka. Even the gods live in fear of me. Do you seriously think that I am going to let myself get intimidated by the likes of the Magium? The Magium is nothing but a tool that I can freely manipulate without even breaking a sweat. Why would I have anything to fear? Do you think I'm like you? Well, Barry, you're in luck. Today you will finally find out what the Magium is. You see, it is all pretty simple once you think about it. If you take into account everything that I've told you about the world we're in now, and if you also remember everything you already knew, then the answer is in fact staring you right in the face. Then the answer... And if you also remember everything you already knew, then the answer that is staring you right in the face is that the Magium is in fact... Right before Araka got to finish her sentence, I felt a sensation that was so terrifying and so hard to put into words that any threat I might have felt to my life from the likes of Araka or the God of Time simply paled in comparison to what I felt just now. It was no longer a question of fearing my life. I was fearing for my existence. I was fearing for my very existence. I felt the whole world flicker around me for a fraction of a second, as everything froze in time and lost all of its color. Then, within the same fraction of a second, it all simply vanished from right before my eyes, and all I could see now was emptiness. An emptiness that stretched for miles and miles, even though it was made of nothing. What felt like a moment also felt like an eternity at the same time, and during that eternity, which lasted for less than a second, I got to experience the sheer dread of complete non-existence. Not only had my life been wiped away, but the very notion of me had been completely erased from the tapestry of the universe. For that fraction of a second, I was nothing. And yet, I was still there, somewhere, trapped for an eternity in a complete void, while trying in vain to make sense of the utter absurdity of my situation. Once I find myself back in my semi-transparent body and in a world full of color, I suddenly realize that I am completely drenched in cold sweat, and that I can feel my heart beating in my chest like a very loud drum. Flower also seems to be frozen in shock as she simply stares straight ahead of her without saying a word. This might give you an existential crisis, right? Are you guys able to hear my dog dreaming? You arrogant fool! Aluna shouts all of a sudden as she grabs Araka's amulet in her hand to bring it close to her face while her eyes are shining with a bright blue color. Do you realize what you've done? This might be the first time I've seen Aluna so furious ever since Araka told us about the Sacred Woods massacre in the Ogre Stronghold. As Araka stays completely silent, the world flickers around us once again, and I can feel myself fading in and out of existence several times in a row, before I get returned to the underground hallway, sweating harder than ever. Are you going to stay silent until we get erased from existence? Aluna shouts at Araka again. Shut up! Araka says with a slight tremble of fear in her voice. I'm trying to fix this, but I can't do it if you keep distracting me. Just give me a minute. As we wait for Araka to finish what she is doing, the world turns black and white once more, but now it's flickering much more rapidly than before, and it feels like this time my consciousness is going to get trapped in the void for good. Just when I am about to give up all hope, I suddenly get pulled back in my body, and the world around us comes back to normal, while both Flower and I are breathing very rapidly and looking at each other while both Flower and I are breathing very rapidly and looking at each other, as we're trying to make at least some sense of our situation. Okay, Araka says with a bit of panic in her voice. This should be good enough for now. We shouldn't be getting any more interference. What do you mean this should be enough for now? Aluna says. Did you or did you not solve the problem? Yes, Araka says. I think. I don't know. I've never done anything like this before. I diverted the Magium's attention away from us by using some tricks that I learned from the God of Fate. I heard that he had to do something similar in the heat of the moment. My earbud registration off. Okay. Sorry about that. I've never done anything like this before. I diverted the Magium's attention away from us by using some tricks that I learned from the God of Fate. I heard that he had to do something similar in the heat of the moment, when they tampered with the Magium to banish me from their realm. And given that they all managed to escape without being erased from existence, then so should we. You're saying that you used an illusion to create a distraction, I say. Well, if you really want to make a comparison, then it is more like a ridiculously complicated suggestion spell, Araka says. Technically, it's still searching for us, but in a completely different world. As long as I manage to keep my idiot mouth shut this time, it shouldn't be able to find us again. Samo, welcome in. How are you? Good to see you. How have you been? So, you admit that you're an idiot, then? Aluna says. Yes. Araka shouts. Yes, I admit it. Are you happy now? I was an idiot to try and challenge the Magium on its own territory. All of my thousands of years of knowledge are nearly useless when faced with this world of contradictions and absurdities. Now, let's calm ourselves down and finish doing what we originally came here to do. I no longer want to spend any more time here than is absolutely necessary. Then how about bring us to the actual start of the Lisathi meeting? Can we just skip directly to the important parts then? I don't have a preference here. If anyone would like to weigh in, and now is your chance. I'll give y'all about a minute. Top? Okay. Then how about bringing us to the actual start of the Lisathi meeting, I say. We've been wasting enough time here as it is. Yes, I was just about to do that, Araka says. She then accelerates the time until the last of the Lisathi finally make their way into the hallway to join their colleagues. Once everyone is assembled, the meeting finally begins. You may be wondering why we've called you here, says the Lisathi with gray hair and a long gray beard, who appears to be in his late 50s. I will try to keep this brief. It has been brought to our attention that a few of you have been approached by a certain individual offering to help you escape from our facility. As you all know, the rules state that if someone were to make such an offer, you would immediately be obligated to notify us about it. Unfortunately, not only has this rule not been followed properly, but there have also been a few cases where some children even agreed to escape. Needless to say, we are very disappointed. Therefore, this meeting has been called for two main reasons. The Lasathi speaking now moves towards the hooded Lasathi who is on his knees, and he stops right behind him. The first reason is to punish the traitor who tried to help you escape, the bearded Lasathi says. He then grabs the head of the kneeling Lasathi with both hands and he twists it to the side, breaking it in one motion and killing him on the spot. As Lasathi sees the lifeless body of the Lasathi caretaker drop to the ground, she almost lets out a gasp, but she quickly covers her mouth to stifle the sound. Somewhere further away, in the middle of the line of orphans, the 8-year-old version of Layla, with the same silver hair, is looking at the whole scene in front of her eyes, frozen in fear. The second reason, the bearded Lasathi continues, is to teach a lesson to all of those that agreed to join this traitor. Anana Mouse, welcome in. Thank you for the first time chat. How you doing? Is to teach a lesson to those that agreed to join this traitor in his escape plan. We already know who you are, but we will give you one last chance to prove that you are not a completely lost cause by allowing you to turn yourselves in. Squeak, squeak. Feel free to take a nap or fall asleep, Banana Mouse. I'm good, thank you for asking. Those who know that they're guilty of this, those who know that they are guilty of having accepted the traitor's offer are required to come here to our side immediately. If you do as we ask, then your punishment will be less severe. If you try to fool us, however, then the penalty will be much, much worse. After a few seconds of waiting, a 6-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl slowly step away from the line of orphans, and then they go to join the Lasathi in front of them. The girl has a very scared look on her face, and the boy is on the verge of breaking down into tears. You have made a wise decision to come here, the bearded Lasathi says as he puts his hands on both of their shoulders. Taking responsibility for your mistakes is an important step forward towards your re-education. However, you are not the only ones who were ready to leave this place together with the traitor. I am still waiting for them to turn themselves in. I assure you that it would not be in your best interest to keep me waiting any longer. As the whole room stays silent, I can see Kate's whole body is now shivering uncontrollably from fear, while she is hugging herself with her arms in a futile attempt to stop herself from trembling. After waiting for about 10 more seconds, the Lasathi shakes his head in disapproval. I was hoping that it would not come to this, the Lasathi says. Very well. If you insist on disobeying us even now, I have no choice but to call your names myself. First, I would like to introduce you to the person who has played the most crucial role in allowing us to find all of the culprits. Olivia, will you please step forward? Traitor. Yes, sir, Olivia says in a very timid voice as she joins the Lasathi and then turns to face the other orphans. When she sees her friend, Olivia, joining her mortal enemies, Kate is momentarily frozen in shock, and then immediately afterwards her previous trembling gets a lot more violent. Olivia has been secretly serving as our informant for quite a while, the bearded Lasathi says. However, she hasn't really produced many notable results until now. We've told her in the past that if she ever managed to make a significant contribution to our cause, then we would consider giving her a more important role in our investigation, in our organization. And with the help she's provided today, she might just obtain that position. In short, your friend Olivia came to help us today to warn us about the traitor and to also warn us that there might be others willing to join them. She then agreed to carry a transceiver with her and to keep it open so that we could hear her talking to the traitor and to all of the children that said that they wanted to join in on the escape plan. Since we already have all the proof we need, we will expect you to come quietly to the front without posing any resistance as soon as you hear your names called. He then coughs loudly before he continues. There are 4 names on our list, the Lysathi says. William, Hannah, Lillian, and Matthew. Please don't waste any more of our time by pretending that you didn't hear us call you. I think we all know what happens to those who openly try to disobey us. The 4 orphans whose names were called are now stepping forward, with their eyes looking at the ground. When they stop in front of the Lysathi, we see that they are all shaking in fear, but they are not saying a word. Good, the Lysathi says. Starting tomorrow, you will all be sent to room 51 in order to commence your re-education process. Is that clear? No, please not 51, shouts a 13-year-old boy who is one of the 4 orphans that they have called by the Lysathi. Anything but that. Have mercy, I beg you. Don't make the mistake of assuming that you have any choice in the matter, the bearded Lysathi says. Every single complaint that you've made from now on, every single complaint that you make from now on will only add more time to the penalty for all 4 of you. Now, tell me, do you have any more complaints? No, sir, the boy says in a voice that sounded like he was one step away from crying. Splendid, the Lysathi says. Now then, Olivia, I would like to ask you one final question. Were there any other orphans who might have wanted to conspire with the traitor? Perhaps some of the children you might have talked to before you came to us with to obtain the transceiver. When she's asked the question, Olivia takes a very short glance towards Kate out of instinct, but then she goes back to looking right in front of her. No, sir, Olivia says. There was no one else. Very well, the Lysathi says. Rest assured, you will be rewarded for your efforts. You may be a reject, but even for someone like you, there is a place in our organization, as long as you keep proving yourself useful. Yes, Olivia says in a very meek tone of voice. That is all I've ever wanted. To be useful. Let us take these traitors to the temporary holding cell until we make all of the necessary arrangements, the Lysathi says as he now addresses his colleagues. Tomorrow, we will begin their re-education process. No! Kate shouts loudly all of a sudden. You can't take them with you. They did nothing wrong. As I take a look at Kate, I see that she has finally managed to stop her trembling, and she now has a much more determined look on her face. Every single person in the room is now staring at Kate as the bearded Lysathi slowly approaches her. What did you just say? The bearded Lisathi says calmly as soon as he reaches her. I said they did nothing wrong, Kate says with a somewhat shakier voice. All they did was want to escape this hellhole of a place. How can you blame them for wanting that? Strange, Lisathi says. I don't remember you ever being brave enough to stand up to us before. In fact, I remember you as being both very timid and very obedient. Your aura seems different from how I remember it as well. I wonder, what could have happened to cause such a great change in your personality? Perhaps we should try to dissect you and find out. You are a reject, after all. It's not like your death would be much of a loss to us. No, leave her alone, Diane shouts from the other side of the room as tears flow from her eye. Don't you dare touch her. What is this supposed to be? The bearded Lisathi says as he now turns to Diane. Some sort of rebellion. Do you think you are going to receive special treatment just because you're one of our elite bodyguards? Or did you forget that you can't cast any magic with that collar around your neck unless we specifically allow you to do it? He then goes closer to Diane and he grabs her. He then goes closer to Diane and he grabs her by the hair in order to make sure that she looks straight into his eyes. Do you think that you are beyond our reach just because you routinely escort our great leaders? Lisathi says. Do you think you no longer have to worry about our punishments? Maybe we should send you to 51 for re-education as well. I'm sure the leaders would not mind having a more obedient servant. What is the meaning of this? We hear a woman shout as she is just now entering our hallway and walking fast towards the bearded Lisathi. The Lisathi woman who shouted appears to be in her late 30s with long brown hair and green eyes, and she is wearing a dark blue robe just like every other Lisathi in the room. She's being escorted by 2 Lisathi men who are both carrying weapons. Lady Meredith, the bearded Lisathi says as he immediately releases Diane. I thought that you and our Lord Hexel had already finished your inspection of the beacon. Lord Hexel left early this morning, Meredith says, but I still had some unfinished business here, so I chose to remain for a while longer. What were you doing just now to my loyal bodyguard? Lady Meredith, Diane says in a shaky voice, they were trying to kill her. They were trying to kill Kate. They said they wanted to dissect her to find out why she stood up to them. Kate? Meredith says. You mean your best friend from the beacon, who you once told me about? Allow me to explain, Lady Meredith, the bearded Lisathi says. He then points at Kate with pure hatred in his eyes. This reject was trying to interfere with our process of re-education. The Lisathi says. Re-education? Meredith asks. Precisely. The Lisathi says. Those 4 orphans that are standing over there have broken our rules, so they must be re-educated, so that they will no longer cause any problems. But this reject was just trying to give us orders. She was telling us what we have. She was telling us that we have no right to take the orphans away with us. What exactly is this re-education process that you keep telling me about? Meredith says. The re-education process is an extreme measure that we take against those who are caught trying to break our rules more than once. The Lisathi says, all of our rule breakers will be taken to a special room where they will be tortured repeatedly for the duration of a few months until they will be made completely obedient. The brainwashing techniques that we use are of the highest quality, and they are meant to ensure that every ounce of free will is completely eradicated while leaving their intellect intact so they can still understand and follow our orders. The children that pass through the re-education process usually stop interacting with their peers altogether, and they rarely ever talk unless they are directly asked a question by us. In other words, they become the perfect test subjects. Our re-education technique has been refined throughout the years, and we are very proud of the results it has given us, especially in the last few months. You dare to say all this to my face, Meredith says with a furious look on her face. And you even present these barbarities to me as if they were some sort of accomplishment deserving of praise? What in God's name is wrong with you? These are all children. How is it possible to be this cruel? When I saw how the experiments are run in this place, I already had my doubts, but I never thought you would go this far. But, Lady Meredith, the bearded Lisathi says, Lord Hexel already approved. I don't care what Lord Hexel did or did not approve, Meredith says. Give me your names, and give me a list of all of your procedures. Bring them to me now. If I see any more insane techniques like this written in your documentation, I'm going to cross them all out, and if you ever dare to use them again, you will answer not only with your job, but with your life. Do you understand? Yes, madam, the Lisathi says reluctantly. I will bring the documents to you at once. And the rest of you, Meredith says while looking towards the other Lisathi, I will hear your sides of the story right now. You'd better not skip any important details. I don't think you'd want to anger me any further. Wow, that was a pretty interesting development, Haraka says. Isn't Meredith the Lisathi's current leader? I wonder how their management has changed in the years since she took over. I need to end here. My throat hurts. So we're going to save. Okay. Okay. Thank you everyone so much for thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm getting sick. I'm acting feverish right now. My brain is not working. I'm sorry. Thank you everyone for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you. You guys have made my day better. Thank you, Wanchi and Birdsteel Panda for the raids. That was really awesome that you guys wanted to share your community with me. I think, were there other raids? I got a good number of followers, so thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to end the recording now.